Hello, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about funding your research. So a year or two ago I did a video about funding, just kind of funding, and I wanted to talk more specifically about getting funding for your research. So as context, I have applied for a lot of different funding opportunities within my university, outside of my university, and obviously I don't get everything, but I have gotten a nice handful of them, and I just wanted to make sure I shared some information about where I find these funding opportunities, and why it's so important to apply for all of them. So I would say start with your university. Within your university, there may be like the graduate school or some kind of maybe like some kind of student governed organization. So at MSU, we have the graduate school, and then we have the Council of Graduate Students, which we call COGS. And a lot of the funding that I've gotten for my research has come through those two, and also just directly from the College of Education where my program is housed. So what I do is I don't ignore the emails that come through from the different deans within the college. So a lot of times we'll get emails from like the dean of student affairs maybe, and it'll just be a list of funding for different disciplines. And a lot of students honestly ignore those emails because we have other emails coming through, but I always kind of scroll through to see what's in there. Sometimes I'll control F and look for a dollar sign, honestly. And sometimes they apply to me and sometimes they don't. When they do, I save it for later, check the deadline, and try to apply to it if I can. The other ones come from my department, which has been great. So within my department, I have received I received funding for my for the first research project within my program. They call it an apprenticeship. It's kind of like a master's thesis, but I got funding for that, so I was able to give incentives to participants in my research study. I also got funding for my dissertation, so similar process. It came from the department, and I sent in a proposal. I said, this is how much money I need, this is what the money is for, and I got it. So I did that. And then I've also received funding to actually take the time to do my research. So not necessarily money that's going directly to anybody, but it could be. So within our college, we have they've called them different things over the years. I think when I got it, it was the Summer Research Fellowship. Now there's like a Summer Research Development Fellowship, which is like for students who are developing an idea. I also received the Dissertation Completion Fellowship, which is what I currently have. And basically those are, it's kind of like, I don't know if buyout time is the right term, but it's essentially a chunk of change that's set by the college, university, department, whoever is funding this. And it's like, use this money and don't work. Like, don't do other stuff. Use this money to pay for like your expenses while you are doing your research. So maybe instead of doing a half-time assistantship, maybe you're only doing a quarter-time assistantship and you're able to dedicate more time to your research because you now have money that you don't have from, like scaling back on your hours, if that makes sense. So those are different ways of funding that I've gotten through my university. And the way that I started doing it in my first year was I literally just Googled Michigan State University graduate funding, and that's pretty much what came up. It wasn't hard. That's kind of just what it was. Different universities and colleges are going to have different levels of funding internally. But I've also used that to find funding for conferences. So if I'm presenting my research somewhere, the graduate school and COGS have conference travel. They have conference travel for people who are presenting, and then travel funding for people who are just going, so kind of like professional development funding. So that's also an opportunity not to pay for your research itself, but to be able to present your research. My university, or I think it's within my college, also has an Office of Research Administration. I don't know how common that is. It sounds like it might be, but it's for faculty and students. They send out a monthly newsletter with a list of funding outside of the one that I was mentioning before. Every month they add new funding, which is also where I've gotten some information from. Next, I would go to your field's local, state, and national organizations. So for me, that's like NASP, APA, NASP and APA. That's it for me, really, because within APA there are 54 divisions, and I'm a member of so many of them. So when you are within these organizations, NASP has their own funding that they do. A lot of their funding also goes toward master's and specialist level students, because their programs typically are not funded. But APA, within those 54 divisions, because the divisions are all specific to different areas, there are a lot of opportunities to find funding if your research applies to one of those areas. So I applied to a lot of things that came up in the listservs that I was on. The listservs are a great opportunity, not only for funding, but also seeing research opportunities. If you're looking for like if you want to volunteer in a research lab, if you don't have a research position over the summer, a lot of people look for research assistants and they're paying. And then even when you graduate, like people post like job positions and postdoc positions. So outside of funding, those are just a really great resource to have. The hard part is that listservs are very annoying, and they're always like someone is sending something to the listserv at all times of day. So the way that I've kind of set it up so that my inbox is not just flooded with emails is I have in my in Outlook, because we use Outlook, I have subfolders under inbox, and each division has its own subfolder. So every time I get an email that's sent to a listserv, it goes to a certain subfolder. But that's a great way to find research funding opportunities. I don't even know if you can hear that. My neighbor's dog is so upset. I can literally hear him growling when he's not barking. I'm gonna keep going and hope that that's not too loud. I was gonna say the other thing I would mention is Triple SP, so the Society for the Study of School Psychology, is important within school psychology. So they have 2 dissertation grant awards. I don't know that they have funding for research before the dissertation, but I know they also have some like early career stuff. So my dissertation is being funded by 2 awards. One is through the College of Education in my university, those hard costs that I applied for I mentioned earlier. And then the second is the Triple SP DEI Dissertation Award. So the Triple SP Dissertation Award grant, there's 2 of them. One is just the Dissertation Grant Award, and then the other is the DEI Award, which is what I have. The initial one has been around for years, and they generally have several awardees. The DEI grant, I'm not sure if it was intended to be this way, but I was the only one who was selected this year, which was like pretty cool. It was also the first year that it was offered, so those are something that are really highly sought after in school psychology, Triple SP. And those come around, I think they actually do twice a year. So that's a really great opportunity to get some funding for your dissertation. And then I think the last thing is just apply for everything. It's gonna feel really taxing to apply to a lot of these things knowing that you're probably not going to get most of them. But the more that you apply for them, one, the easier it's going to get to apply for things in the future, but you're also getting practice in talking about your research and making it coherent and understandable for other people. I think over time, the way that I've talked about my research has changed a little bit. I used to try to make it sound so complicated, and now I just say what it is, and that makes sense. And so when I'm writing it, it feels like it flows a bit more. But yeah, apply for everything, even apply for the ones that are really small. Everyone has a different, gauge of what like small funding is. But at the end of the day, you need money. So I would say apply for anything if it seems that you have time to do it and that it applies to you. And just see what happens. You can surprise yourself. Honestly, I was surprised to get the Triple SP dissertation grant. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I am. I was surprised. I don't know. That one's really competitive, I think. So just, knowing that is something to think about. Even though it's competitive doesn't mean you shouldn't apply for it. And for some of them, if you don't get it, you might get feedback on your application, which could strengthen your next one. So don't just let it all, don't avoid it because you're scared. Apply for the money, get the money. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope you get money. And I'll put some links to some of the things I was talking about in the description. But that's all for today. So get that money. Bye.